Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando. And we are on episode, I actually have to look now because we have those 2 episodes. We're at episode 58.
Yeah, 58.
And this is our themed episode.
That's right. It's our themed episode. And it's kind of the new version of the themed episode, which includes the hustle of the week, right?
Hustle of the week.
Yeah.
So, and we have some good hustle. I got to tell you. So I want to let you guys know, keep using the hashtag hustle of the week. Now we're getting a ton of entries, but this is something I thought about. You know, hustle of the week is like another Bellow.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways it is for sure. Sometimes it's more of a unique Bellow. Like this is the really, really one-offs, but we've had quite a few of our listeners like write in and say, hey, this hustle of the week that somebody had, like, you know, I found something just like it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, and so now that hashtag, if you need a hashtag to follow on Instagram, it's hashtag hustle of the week. Now, we do have some interesting, you know, because other people use that.
Other people use that.
So we got like people in a hair salon. We have randomness in there. But I want to make sure we take over that hashtag.
Let's own it.
Own it.
Hustle of the week is the reseller hashtag. You know, if you're using that, like, let's make sure that nobody else can use hustle of the week without seeing, you know, just resellers going crazy, and they're gonna
and then they'll start reselling.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, man, these guys are making tons of money.
What, this person bought this is for real $5, hustle, right? And flipped it for whatever amount.
That's real hustle right there.
We have some good ones in here too. So, all right, this is gonna be an interesting episode.
Are you saying like most of our episodes aren't interesting?
Oh, no. They're good. Hey, and even our level up review. Thank you guys. Like that's the one we were kind of like, yeah, you know, we'll see how this goes, and got some very positive feedback. So appreciate that.
Yeah, it's good. I think, and it's one of those things too that, you know, not everything's for everyone, you know, but the idea is for us to reach as many people as possible, and as long as we're putting out more content and not less, you've got more to choose from. So
there you go. And should we mention what's coming up?
What's coming up?
We got something super big coming up.
We got a couple of big things coming up.
I know, but okay. Pre-eBay Open, huge.
Okay. Yeah, this is really big.
Can we talk about it?
I say we talk about it.
Okay. So we're changing things up even more on the podcast. And maybe you've seen this if you follow this person on YouTube. We are bringing interviews to our podcast.
Yeah.
And who are we starting with, Mike?
This is just, it blows my mind. So we're doing interviews, which, you know, there's a ton of amazing people out there.
So many people. That's the hard thing, is like, where do you start?
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't even know how it happened, but we were blessed enough to be able to connect with Craigslist Hunter. Pete over at Craigslist Hunter is an amazing reseller. He's got an awesome YouTube channel. I would probably say majority of our listeners are already subscribed or know who Pete from Craigslist Hunter is.
A lot of them came over because when he gave us a shout out, I think it was back in August or something
of last year.
Yeah, remember? Like out of nowhere, I'm watching Pete and he starts talking about the podcast. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, that was super cool. So if you aren't already a follower of Pete at Craigslist Hunter, go check him out. Follow him on Instagram. Follow his YouTube. Subscribe to his YouTube.
He's doing like daily videos lately.
It's amazing. So let him know that we sent you. Right? If you're already a Craigslist Hunter, you know, subscriber, you know what we're talking about. But if not, go over there. Let him know that we sent you over there so he can see, you know, that you know how much we appreciate him coming on the show. We're planning on doing an interview with him, and that should be coming up on Sunday. So our plan is to do every other Sunday. So one Sunday will be the Level Up review. Then the following Sunday will be an interview with some amazing reseller or hustler of some kind, right? Like we're hoping to bring in all kinds of different
hustler of some kind.
Well, you never know, right? Like we might be able to get some real estate moguls in here.
Okay, all right. All right. No, we've talked about that, but there's no better way I can think. I mean, there's several ways we could, but we're just so humbled to be able to bring Pete the Craigslist Hunter for our very first interview on the podcast.
Yeah, no, it's going to be amazing. We're really setting the bar high there, you know.
Well, we are. And here's the thing. He's directly affected our own businesses and how we do things. And one of the most gracious guys that I haven't met him one-on-one, but we've had conversations leading up to the podcast, and we'll share more about that when we finally drop the interview. But just a really all-around great guy and a legit reseller. So looking forward to that to Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
So what's this episode
We have an episode to talk about, right? We have an episode to do here. Okay. So this one's interesting because we're dealing with, I didn't know how to title it. So I just titled it Buyer Issues. It's all good.
That's a good title. For sure.
I didn't know what else to say.
That is a euphemism for crazy customers, right? Like that's really what it comes down to.
No. Mine, it's like everything can be resolved.
Oh, for sure. But some customers are just crazy. Like I'm sure.
I get that, but see, I'm more of the perspective of yes, there are, but I think you got to treat each one individually and recognize everybody has like their own background, their own bad day, you know, like
their own unique kind of crazy.
I get it, you know, but we have different personalities, you know, like even me and you mesh sometimes, right? Mesh, is it mesh or
we butt heads occasionally?
We're averse
every once in a while.
Every once in a while, kind of like our last podcast.
Yeah,
that was fun though.
The level up review
got
a little heated. If you haven't listened to it yet, check it out.
All right. Anyways, but hey, listen. So buyer issues. The reason I wanted to share it and Mike wanted to share this was because I don't know. Do you ever feel like sometimes like it's just you? Like, why am I the only person dealing with this issue?
Yeah. Well, in the moment, I feel like that is the default position that most people take with any kind of obstacle, right?
Okay.
You know, I think once we like really logically think about it, we know for sure that everybody's dealing with this. But yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with a customer who's upset with something that they've purchased, or they're trying to buy something, or all of the numerous numbers of issues that could possibly happen on eBay or Amazon, yeah, you can definitely say like, there's no way. Like, how do I get stuck with this? Like, why is this happening to me? Without realizing, like, yeah, this is kind of part of the job and kind of normal. And now, how do we get through this? Like, that's really the question.
And that's what we want to talk about. But before we get into we kind of broke it down. We broke it down to like how to prevent it, and then we broke it down to when it goes silent, which we talked about a little bit, and then worst case scenario. Now, we're not going to be able to touch on every single like buyer issue, right? Because there's some stuff we haven't encountered yet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just talking about the idea that each individual is unique. So is each situation. Like there's a lot of similar ones, right? Like I've talked to you about problems I've had and you go, and I think it's like super unique and rare. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, that happens to me like once a month. And I'm like, oh,
once a month.
Oh, okay. You know what I mean?
I hope not, but yeah.
You know, so, but there are, you know, each individual thing is its own problem, its own unique situation. And if you're newer, you know, like I am, even though I've got a year under my belt of doing this, there's still things that come up that I'm like, how do I solve this? Right. And so, you know, this episode isn't to like explain every situation. Like, well, what do you do if UPS loses it and then you have to do this? You know, like this isn't a step by step. This is just kind of like
some parts will be though.
Yeah, but this is like, what are the general ways of handling, you know, the common issues, and then what are some you know, mindset ways of dealing with, and even just strategies for dealing with people, right? Because that's really what you're doing is you have to realize that, like you said, and you started this, like that is somebody else on the other end of the computer, right? It's a human being with a life, and
with a life.
Yeah, you know, like sometimes it's easy to forget that it's
no.
A person.
I agree. And anyways, I can keep going on, but you know, we ourselves end up in these scenarios where like it's been a rough day, and then we get this message, and had it been like the day before, where everything was all good, we probably would have handled it differently. You know what I'm saying?
And as it is, like eBay messages I hate getting them.
I think there needs to be a different sound
for message.
Yeah, because you know you're like whatever. I can't even do the sound, but so back in the day, everything was anytime you got an offer, you sold something, you got a cha-ching, right? Now you get the sound, but it could be an offer or a message. And it's the worst when you get it and you look and you're like, it's a message.
Yeah, and the worst thing too is, you know, and this is shooting for the moon. This would never happen, but like we had a few people mention in some of our comments that eBay's algorithm is so good at even detecting like if you're trying to make a sale outside of the platform.
Yeah,
right.
It's that good
that they should be able to determine if it's a negative message. And it should be
give you a negative sound
and even different. You should be able to like set it so like you only get them at certain times, like when you're prepared for them. You know what I mean? Like that's not a real thing, but yeah, it should be a different sound because yeah, there's a lot of anxiety. Sometimes it's like, you know, I'm driving and I get the message and it's like, oh, now I got to wait till I'm home to open this up. And the whole way home, I'm thinking, what went wrong? I'm thinking of the big sales I had, like, oh, I had that big $200 sale. Like, I hope it didn't break on the way there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
I hear you.
ah,
But you know what? Hey, eBay Open, we should bring that up. Like, can we have a different sound for
for
messages?
messages.
Yeah, because it's super disappointing. Like, I could be in one room hanging out with my kids, and I hear it, and like I left in the kitchen. I take off and I go and oh, it's a return request. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you hear it, you're kind of like, you know what? I'll get to it later. You know, or you're like ready for it. Anyways, okay. So we want to start with prevention. I think prevention is key with buyer issues.
Kind of like a very popular quote.
Oh, are we going with quote of the week already?
Might as well just get it out of the
Okay,
way.
go ahead.
Right?
Yes, please get it out of the way.
Isn't it something to the effect of, and I'm probably butchering this one, but something to the effect of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
I think so.
But
I've
isn't
heard
that so true?
Oh, I agree. I
Right?
think in any scenario, it's like that.
Like, just spending a little bit of time preventing an issue is way worth the outcome, right? Of time lost in the beginning versus potential time lost later on.
Agreed, especially with eBay. Like, and we've talked about it. We talked about it. I don't know how many podcasts ago about making sure you're organizing and have inventory so you save time. But it's the same thing. Like trying to prevent buyer issues, right? And the first thing is make sure to be objective in your listings. Do you know what I'm saying about objective in your listings?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways of doing that. I think one simple way of doing that is taking really good, clear, honest pictures. Right.
You can take honest pictures.
Absolutely, because I feel like you can take deceptive pictures, right?
Oh, okay. I
You
get what you're saying.
you can make the lighting a little bit, right? You can make sure that the angle is that angle where the scratch doesn't really show up, you know? So I think just being very clear with your pictures is one simple way. And obviously there's lots of ways as far as like inside of your writing, but being very clear with the pictures that there's no question about what people are getting. Because occasionally I still get customers who say, you know, those pictures didn't, you know, weren't accurate to the item. And it's like, well, it kind of was, but I can only imagine how many more I'd get if you were intentionally trying to cover flaws.
You may
like
still take good pictures. I took good pictures of an item, and somebody said like your pictures were far better than the item I received, which was not the case, but it happens sometimes. You know,
That's just buyer's remorse, I think.
yeah, no,
Because in their head,
it definitely was.
Because you know, when they look at that picture, their imagination is going right, like, oh, I can see myself wearing this
Strolling
shirt,
into the room and stuff.
right? Like they're seeing themselves in the shirt, and they can see how good it looks, and then they put it on and look at themselves in the mirror.
Oh, that's
And
happened.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
I get it.
I don't look as good, and then they blame it on the product instead of themselves or whatever the situation is.
I know that was one of my latest returns. It was a Ray Spooner shirt, and they said this doesn't look professional enough. It's too worn. And I'm like, well, okay, the pictures are pretty clear. Maybe you didn't shave that day. I don't know. Okay, but okay. I also wanted to address the use of language. Okay, first of all, yeah, pictures. You're right. Like pictures are huge, and you know, if it's too much, like let's say you have like 20 flaws. Sometimes it's best just to take a few of them and then just say, hey, this has cosmetic wear throughout, right? See pics, blah 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 blah, and maybe in other areas, right? But and I've addressed this on Instagram before, but you know, do you use words like excellent, or do you use words like great or perfect or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's always the best. I try to be clear with my language, but sometimes I know that those are the hook words, right, to pull people in, and probably not always maybe the best, but I think there is something to be said if something is used, but it is pristine, right? Like this is like, you can tell this thing is in perfect condition. Maybe it's used like one time somebody looked at it, right? You know, so I think you want to convey that like, hey, I can't mark it as new because I'm going to be honest, but this is as new as you can get without it being like sealed in the package. And so I do think there's a place, but are you saying that maybe you shouldn't use those words?
I don't think you should. I don't think you should use the words. And this is my perspective. Again, if you have a different perspective, let us know below. But my belief is, you know, what is it? Under promise and over deliver? Is that how it goes? They got that wrong.
No, that's a thing.
Right? It's a thing. And for me, it's like when you use words like excellent, like that's pretty subjective. Right? Excellent to one person may be different than to another person, right? Worn, right? Worn's a pretty good, you know, word. Like worn is worn, right? But but so you're not trying to make it look better than it is. You're just saying this is where it's at, and then the person can make that judgment. But when we say excellent, like or when you use words like mint, like it better be mint.
Yeah, I
Do you
can
get
see
what I'm
that.
saying? Like
Well,
that's
especially because some of those words carry, I don't legal isn't the right phrase there, but they carry like very specific connotations to them, right? Like there were companies that would grade things, and it had to be graded a certain condition to be considered mint, right? So then when you use that term mint, you're basically saying mine meets that standard, and it might not, right? And if it doesn't, that could be an issue. So yeah, I think you got to be careful with that. But I almost, is there something to be said for not under promise and over deliver, but promise accurately and deliver accurately? Like if you've got something that's in great condition, is it not worthwhile to?
but great condition to who? Like if, for instance, okay, so I'm a pretty low key kind of guy, right? So, and I might have a shirt and might be worn like, let's say on my sleeve, right? And so, to me, it's like that's an excellent use condition. There's a little bit of wear, but somebody who like, remember we had that administrator that always dressed to the nines, like was clean cut and everything. Like to him, like that's terrible, right? So excellent use condition to him means different than what it means to me.
Yeah, well, and I think part of the problem with that is not having very like objective standards of like what meets what. But I do think, yeah, if you use the term excellent, you should be saying that's equating it to like new. That's how I would in my mind. I'd be upset if I got something that said excellent condition and it came in like what you'd consider like something that's been used. Like one nice thing with Amazon, right? Like when I buy books, they have, and I know people set their own like
Yeah.
things, but there are very clear like new, like new, good, very good, and then like you can click on what very good means to them, and it'll tell you like some dog ears on pages. Maybe
So if you have descriptors like that in your listings, which would be not advisable because you want to keep your listings short and to the point, that could work. But and by the way, this is for all platforms. This is whether it's Amazon or Mercari or Posh or eBay. Like this apply. I will tell you, I've not had in my 6 years of really being serious about reselling, or 10 years of reselling, or whatever it's been. I've never had a condition issue because I've never had anybody say, you said this was excellent and it wasn't, or you said this was great and this isn't great. So I just strongly advise, like, don't be subjective. Like, make sure it's an objective thing. So you could say words like used but not abused, or you could say used, or you could say
that stuff's even more subjective though.
no, but okay. If a shirt is used and not abused,
This is a well-loved shirt. Now that is up for interpretation,
no,
right?
that is, but it's a little bit better to me. I think it's a whole lot better than saying excellent or great or using EUC. Let us. I'm interested in what our listeners think.
Yeah.
So share in the comments below, because I 100% believe like under deliver. No, what is it? Under promise over. Under promise and over deliver is far better. Number one, it prevents issues, right? Because how many times do you get that awesome feedback like this is far better than even they said or the pictures? Like you'd rather get that review than somebody that goes or gives you a neutral and goes, well, they said it was excellent, but it wasn't that great.
Let me give you a story that kind of connects to that. So
Okay.
I sold a what do you call them? It's slipping my mind right now. So before DVDs, the big discs, what are they called?
Laserdisc?
Laserdisc.
Okay.
Yes. So I bought a Laserdisc player and I plugged it in at the store that I bought it from, and it turned on, opened up. I'm like, okay, sweet. Like this thing probably works.
Yeah.
And even at for parts, it was selling for a decent amount. I get it home. I bought a Laserdisc to test it, and I test it, and it wouldn't actually play. The disc would spin, but it wouldn't play. So I list it as broken. I explained everything, like turns on, these lights all work, it opens, it closes, but the disc itself doesn't play, like it gets stuck on. So I described everything. So I said, this is for parts or repair only, used, right? And somebody pays for it. They bought it. They didn't even haggle. And the shipping was expensive because this thing was a big thing, right? And so I was just happy to get it out of my house. I packaged it like it was good, right? Like it, I used so much bubble wrap. I think I used like the really thick stuff. I used like 4 sheets of that. Then I used paper, and then I like floated that inside of another box, right? Like this thing was like For a used
Legit
thing,
packing.
I was even thinking to myself, like, man, like this is a lot of packing for something that's like for parts, right? But I'm like, I'd rather send it
Yeah,
like
you gotta
this.
be careful.
Yeah. But then I'm not gonna lie, in the back of my mind, I was like, but the nice thing is, like, I don't have to worry about this getting to somebody and them saying like it's broken, doesn't work, right? Like, because I'm selling it to them knowing it doesn't work. So they get it and they immediately send me a message saying that it was terrible packaging, that it wasn't, right? Like they're
Really?
complaining. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm confused. And I said, could you please send a picture of like, the condition that it arrived in, like with and they were like, no, it's fine. Like it arrived fine, but like the packaging, like it could have used more paper. Like they made a few comments, right? So I was just like, please send me pictures. Like I'd like to see and they sent me a picture of the outside of the box with like a scratch in the outside of the box, like nothing on the inside, right? So it was just this. So I was expecting,
Which could have happened anywhere between leaving your place and getting to them.
yeah. And so I'm thinking like, man, I'm gonna get negative review. I'm gonna get negative review. I ended up getting a positive review, and the person just said like, could have used more packaging, right? So, and I think I mentioned before, and you said you should have that taken off, even though
You should. Well, they give you a neutral, right?
no, well, I do have a neutral, but that one they gave me positive. They just said. But it was funny because I looked up online. I'm like, can like something for parts and that's broken, like being sold as that way be like, can you get in trouble for it? So I'm trying to look stuff up, and I saw some pretty funny things that people explained what they put when they sell stuff that are for parts only or repair. And I saw one description that was hilarious, and I kind of want to use it from now on. It's like, you are buying a piece of junk. This thing is terrible.
I think
that you're buying
super under promising.
No, it was like this thing, like they explained like
this is trash.
Take pictures. Yeah, like this thing looks like it's been run over by a truck. It's going to be shipped USPS, so expect that it will get run over by another truck.
Oh, wow.
Like just totally like hilarious, like a lot of sarcasm and funny. And they said like that's how they send that stuff. And the nice thing with doing that is if they were to ever complain that something went wrong, like I feel like at that point eBay would have to look at it and say like, no, literally in their description they said you're buying junk. This is trash. Like basically, don't even buy this. Buy it at your own risk. It's gonna arrive busted.
So
like,
that's kind of like the other,
that's the other
pendulum
extreme,
going
sure.
like all the way to
no.
the
That's
side.
under promising.
That is definitely under.
This item will probably arrive.
Okay,
destroyed.
so I'm not saying go that route, but I'm saying, hey, you know what? If it's kind of like one of those things where you get those messages sometimes like, so how does this shoe fit to your feet? And it's like, well, I'm not going to answer that because I don't say that. I usually say, hey, appreciate the question. Unfortunately, everybody, likes their shoes fitting differently, so I can't give you an accurate assessment.
Yeah.
And that's it. Just because if you begin to go, oh, these are, smaller to the size.
Now, I think there's something to be
yourself
said for
in
if like brands, like, and I think this is very specific if you know what you're selling. So like, for instance, I really like Allbirds shoes. Allbirds shoes run a little bit small, I think it is, right?
But
so if I were to sell,
what if you have feet that don't?
No, but that's not your feet. That's just like general. Like people know like certain places, certain like if you buy from this company, they run a little big, they run a little small. So people put in descriptions like this is a small. Be aware, whatever brand tends to run smaller than average, right? So people know, and I'm not saying that you should do that for everything, because you can't say like this will fit you great.
I would say totally avoid it, 100%. Don't even go down on that road.
Well, I wouldn't if you're selling one-offs, but if you are like a seller of a certain brand and you've got a lot of them, and you know that this brand tends to like if 40% of the people
like a Reebok.
Sure, we'll just use an example. But like, if you know that you're constantly getting people say like, this is too small, this is too small. You look up on forums and everyone's like, size 11 Reeboks are actually like 10 and a half, right?
No, okay, I see what you're saying.
So if it's just like generally understood, then you should put that out there. That way, when somebody buys it and says, oh, this doesn't fit, it's not the right size, it's too small, you can say, well, actually, it is the right size. You knew that when you bought it, that you need to size up.
Interesting. And I don't think I've ever done that. I completely avoid any of it because for me, it's the headache of, you promise somebody something and then, for a reason, like for instance, myself, my left foot is bigger than my right foot by like half a size. I don't know why. And different Nikes fit differently on my feet. So, some people talk about Nikes fit a certain way, but what if there's another Orlando out there and they ask you that question and then they get it. And then next thing you know, you're dealing with the return, right? Where you're better off not even dealing with it because then you lose that money on the shipping there. And if you have free returns, then you lose the money on the shipping back. Right. So to me, it's, hey, prevent, save yourself that time, save yourself that money because the right buyer will come along. That's not going to ask those questions.
So I think that kind of just is a general principle. If there's a really needy buyer, is it best just to try not to sell to them?
Well, that's our next part. So I will say yes. 100% yes. I can tell you, I cannot. For me, it's kind of like I have a quota. Like if you ask me more than 3 questions, like I'm not gonna. I don't know. I feel bad saying this, but I may respond, but I may say, hey, appreciate your questions. Everything that you need to know is on the description. If you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. Thank you for look forward to your business. And I just leave it at that. Because to me, it's I don't know, and I'm not trying to read into people too much. Those of you who have been selling for a while, you know what I'm talking about. Like it tends to be that if a person asks too many questions, it's going to be an INAD, an item not as described.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're that needy up front.
I don't know if needy is the word, like inquisitive.
Maybe that's better. But it's funny though, because like before I learned how to block people, I had
learned how to block. How many people have you blocked, Mike?
Only like 5 or 6 people. But because there are people who are like obsessed with an item, and they're obsessed because you get a message on it like consistently, like this is priced too high. If you lower it, right? Like, and they, like they want this thing, and they act like they don't want it, right? They act like I that's too much. I won't pay that much. Like I'll go somewhere else. You're like, okay, good luck. And then like 2 weeks later, they're back trying to get it again.
I had somebody like that, but they actually bought the shoes and they loved them.
Really? Yeah. I've had a few people who are like that with things, and they almost get to the point where they're like, they insult you with your pricing or with your
no.
Whatever.
If they insult you, it's over. I'm not even playing.
I had one guy who I went back and forth with, and I told this story many podcasts ago, so I'm not going to do the whole thing, but he wanted this sweater, and he would message like every couple weeks, and we'd go back and forth on it. And I'm not gonna sell it for that much. And I'm like 100% convinced that he either made another account or had a friend make an account to buy that sweater, because he felt, I think, silly for not buying it at the price that he thought it was. I wouldn't lower my price. He kept saying he could get it cheaper. And I said, well, good. I hope you do. Like, I hope you enjoy the cheaper sweater you get, And he never was, because every few weeks I'd get another message. And then finally, like 10 minutes after one of his messages where I told him no again, and he left off all mad, it sold to somebody with zero purchases, like as absolute zero. So I was like, that was him. He made an account just to buy this, and he had too much pride to buy it on the account.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's not 100%, but like I really think like his pride, like if he would have bought it at that point after like basically saying like, I will never spend this much, like you're crazy, and then realizing he can't get it anywhere else. Yeah, like that would be a hard buy for him. So
well, but that's the thing. It's I was trying to find a message that I got from a buyer earlier, but to me, it's kind of like when we do negotiations. Like one of the worst ways to negotiate with someone is to insult what they're selling, right? So you got to think about it so this works both ways, right? As a seller, if somebody's insulting your items, like you probably don't want to go down that road.
Yeah, would you do that like at a garage sale? Like you're gonna buy something, and they are asking too much, would you say like, for this, like it's messed up? Like, do you do that?
No, my line's always like, seems like this means a lot to you. Like you go down that road, and then the person will go, no, it doesn't mean that much.
Now, is there a place to say like, because this works too sometimes, is like when somebody gives you a price, you already see a flaw, and right after they give you the price, that's when you like, it's like, for instance, I'll just say the kayak that I bought, right? And that was for me.
Is it still good?
Oh, it's great. I love it. Okay. So he gave me a price, and it was still a really good price. Like I think his original price was like $95 or $80.
Okay.
And right after he said it, I grabbed a handle that I saw was already like starting to like dry rotten out. And then as soon as I grabbed it and pulled it, it broke off, and I was like, ooh.
Right in front of him?
Yeah. Like, cause it was really bad. I was like, and he's like, yeah, I guess it needs new handles. All right. 40, right? Like, so I didn't insult it, but I knew I wanted to draw his attention to this thing isn't perfect, right? So is there a place for that?
I don't know. To me, it's not worth it. I mean, we're talking about, I can understand if you have, no, not even then. I was about to say like, if it's a really expensive item, maybe, but for me, here's one thing. If you sell expensive items, I never have issues with buyers that buy like drop money. I don't. I can't think of one single person that has bought something from me that was, let's go bottom line, over $100, over $500, over $1,000, ever give me a problem. most of the time they just buy it outright. They don't even give you an offer, right? It's the one that goes like, I got a message a couple weeks ago about this. Have like these salt and pepper shakers that are from Japan, and they automatically go, looks like the handles on there were fixed or glued together. Can you respond to that? Like, no. Like, if you didn't like that, like, I could see where they're going. I think they're trying to work on my price. Like, no. I just said, unfortunately, I don't really know. The pictures show what's there, and
Yeah,
it's up to you.
I think it's the same thing even with like when you're at a garage sale, right? Is we've said it before, and maybe, you try not to stereotype, but like when you go to really affluent neighborhoods, I feel like they're more willing to part with nice stuff for cheaper, because to them it's like they're not doing this sale because they need the money.
Yeah.
Right. Like $20 versus $50.
No, I was the same way. Not in the affluent neighborhood. I was, when I needed money and I ran a rummage sale, like I wanted top dollar for all my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you go somewhere where you could tell like someone's selling this stuff and they need to be able to pay their bills, right? Like that's what they're doing the sell for. You're not going to be able to negotiate the same way because they don't have the wiggle room, right? And I feel like it's the same thing with buyers. So if a buyer is buying and they don't just have money to just throw around and who cares, they're probably going to be more likely to, one, try and haggle the price down, and two, if things aren't perfect, which, again, we've got to be honest, but they might be more likely to either have buyer's remorse or to find a mistake or something and want their money back because they need
Agreed.
that.
And that's why I say, like, to me, it's not worth the time.
No.
It's just not. I mean, it's a business. I know there's a whole human side to it, but ultimately, it's a business, and you want to save your time and you want to save your money. So, for me, I would say just don't take it personal, though. Have you ever gotten the message? Like, I got one. It was a Harley shirt, and somebody had messaged me and said something. They offered me something super low, and I met them in the middle, and they said, "Yeah, right. Only if even with new tags, I wouldn't drop that money. Good luck with your business." I could have been annoyed. To me, it was kind of hilarious. It takes a lot for me to get mad. It takes a lot, and I just kind of just said, "You know what? Thanks so much. I appreciate the encouragement. Have a great week." And the whole like thank you emoji. And it's just, you can't, like, you got to understand, like, ultimately, like, this is their one moment in the day and they really wanted something and they can't get what they want. And so they're going to lambaste you.
It's tough though. I feel like the more you're exposed to people being negative towards you, you can become more calloused and develop that thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
It's not natural though. Like just naturally, I think it's easier to take things personally.
No, I was a school administrator for 5 years. So that's why it takes a lot, because I've had all kinds of things said about me.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's true. And like a lot of times it's like a fight or flight response too. Like I was just thinking about this, is a little unrelated, but like even with like driving, like I can't tell you how many times, like I'm a pretty calm person, but when I'm stopped at the stop sign and then I start to go and they totally didn't stop at the stop sign and then they start flipping me off, like I don't know how to react to that. It's like, are you kidding me? Like you're in the wrong. You can't. And the rest of the day, like it's bothering me. And it's like, they were the one that was running the stoplight and they flipped me off. Like and it's hard not to take those things. And then when I rationally think about it, I'm like, why do I care? Like they don't, like they're not, it's not bothering them, but it's so easy to take things personally. And to me, like a lot of times with those types of things, I don't take it personally. What I kind of take personally is I am very willing to work with people. Like when somebody is unhappy with a purchase, this is my business, right? Mm-hmm. I'm never going to intentionally have unhappy customers because you're not going to stay around very long. So when somebody messages me and they want a return or refund or money back, whatever the thing is, I'm going to work with them because it's mm-hmm. worth it to me. And I feel like most sellers are like, I would
say 99.99999% of buyers on eBay are awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
can't say the same for other platforms, but for eBay, yes.
But it's what I take personally, and I know I shouldn't, is when I get the very first message from somebody when they're unhappy about something, and this has happened to me like 3 or 4 times, immediately their first response is, this is blah, 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 not as described, but whatever they're upset about. And they say, I will be reporting this to eBay if this is not resolved immediately. And it's like, whoa, yeah. Step back.
But that's when you
don't, and I know that you got to start, like, you got to be calm but it's like, you didn't need to go there. Like when I'm nice to you, you're going to think, and then that's part of it too, is like, they're going to think they won against me. It's like, I'm going to be nice to you, right? Like, you don't need to come at me like that upset, that angry, because now if for whatever reason I'm being a jerk to you and I'm not responding to you, then you could start saying, maybe this needs to go to eBay, right? But until then, like, don't start that way, right? And that goes both ways.
But that's real life. That's anything. It's the moment somebody gets to you, they won. Period. Every single time. I mean, I can't tell you, I had some run-ins when I was, an administrator, and, the moments where I failed was the moments that parent or that student, said something that I just was like, okay, I'll never forget. I'm not going to share too much, but I had one time where I had someone that wanted one of my faculty to apologize to them and the entire class. It wasn't even like a serious scenario. And it really bothered me. I'm like, who are you to come in and talk about one of these professionals that I know personally and has worked here for several years and loves your child and loves everybody else? And I just looked at them and I was thinking this in my head, and I just go, no, this isn't happening. I think we're done. Have a great day. That was a terrible call on my part, right? It got to me. I let them get to me, and they won. Because then what did I have to do? It's not like it ended there. It's just like eBay. Like, if you react in a personal way to someone and then a case gets opened up or negative feedback, like when you're calling eBay, you're going to have to make amends.
Yeah. You're going to have to deal with it sooner or later. Might as well deal with it now. And yeah, it's important to try and be calm. And the other thing too is I like what you said with, even you get them when you do the hey, thanks, like, good luck with your business. Well, you know that they're not saying that in a nice way.
No, I know.
And you say like, thanks, like, I hope my business does good. Thanks for encouraging me, right? So you can say that. And I feel like there's a way of getting them with that. In the same way, like, this is another example.
Again, we're talking about less than 1% of buyers, by the way.
Yeah. But that 1% is it's the squeaky wheel, right?
Yeah.
It's the one that you think about. But like, going back to that idea of road rage, I've never once flipped somebody off in road rage. It's just, I don't do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But when people do to me, it bugs me. And sometimes I get really angry. But when I'm like really want to get at somebody and I'm calm enough, I'll blow a kiss at them. Like, I'll just
this podcast just took a different turn.
Because
what in the world is going on here?
If you smile and you blow a kiss at them, it infuriates them in a way that you cannot even. And so at that point, I can just smile knowing, oh, I won this one. Okay. Like, they are so mad.
I've never heard Mike share that ever. That was brand new.
Well, it doesn't happen.
You heard it here first.
Only when
Here's
I'm
a
calm
podcast.
enough. But yeah, like, and that's kind of what you're doing with some buyers, and not the buyers, right? If it's a buyer, you
don't do the kiss emojis.
No, yeah, that's a bad idea, right? You need to resolve the issue. But if it's somebody who's a potential buyer and they're being rude to you, don't let them get you. You can go ahead and get them by being nice, right? Like, it really does.
Kindness.
Even if it's sarcastic kindness.
Okay. All right. Let's go to when to go silent, because we just talked about plenty about hopefully this is being helpful so far. Okay. So, well, number one, I think we already mentioned, like, for me, if it's too many questions or if it seems like people are being derogatory or just, you could always go to eBay on Seller Hub and click on the mark as answered. That's it. Like, you're done.
I've never done that.
Well, I don't think you have to. I do it why do you think I do it?
Well, I mean, it covers your tail,
but there's always one reason I do things. Like, this is why I'll do every eBay survey. This is why I'll ship on time. This is why, like, I'll send offers. Algorithm. Okay. I can't say that does anything, but
But see, I do mostly on my phone. I'm not even sure if that's an option. Like, a lot of times people message me, and yeah, like, there's times where I go silent and I didn't even really know there was an option to say like answered.
You can't do it on Seller Hub. You can.
Okay.
You can't do it on the phone. It'd be nice if you could, if they give you a drop down question. Because on Amazon you could put like no response needed. Because you get spammers all the time on Amazon messages, and so you can put no response needed. But some sellers have told me, like, they respond to those spam messages on Amazon to trigger the algorithm. So I don't know. It's just interesting. All right.
Do it for the algorithm.
Do it. Hey, I got an idea. Anyways, okay. You know where I'm going with that one. So we talked about here's another reason when to be so. We already talked about, when it's subjective questions, which Mike and I are 100% agreed upon, but if it's like, hey, how does this fit real true to size? Or, does this fit larger than, the measurement says? Or something that, is this actually in excellent condition or is it used like those? For me, you go silent.
Yeah, and I think there's a time and a place where it can be like, okay, is this true to size? You could say, and I've seen you do this. The measurement armpit to armpit is this. The measure, like, give them the measurements and let them determine whether or not
Correct.
it's.
But that's objective. That's why I like.
Well, you're
responding
giving
that
an
way.
objective answer to a
Correct.
subjective question, right? So that's I think that's a fair thing to do at that point. Yeah.
And then the other one was condition question. We already talked about that. And this is the other one we've
Wait,
talked
so
about.
you're saying 100% if they ask condition, like you wouldn't answer?
No, because if I already said used or used but not abused or gently used or, or sometimes when it's something that's like distressed, I'll put distressed. Please look at the pictures. Like,
Because I had somebody.
okay, maybe
I sell a
maybe
lot of.
one.
Well, I mean, more than one. I'm just interested in what you think about this. So I've sold a lot of Sperry topsiders, right?
Okay.
And I had one person message me, and they were polite with their question, and I don't feel like they were trying to be rude, but it was just like, hey, can you said that the condition is good, but can you give me? And they asked for like some specifics about the sole, and they said like these shoes are notorious for the soles breaking down at the certain point, right? And they told me like where to check to see if it's starting to separate, right? So I feel like at that point, like, would you go silent on that, or would
I
you?
would.
Okay.
I just wouldn't touch it because, again, it's, several things can happen. One, you could check and maybe you're not checking exactly what they told you. Two, when you ship it, something could happen while it's being shipped, right? Three, they're just, I sometimes wonder if people rent your items, like your shoes or your shirt. And so to me, I'd rather have the person that outright buys it and that's it. And if it gets damaged after, then sure, I'll do the return. That's not a problem. But to me, it's just it's too much.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I typically answer those, so I don't know whether or not I'm right or wrong on that. But if I don't know something, I'm very clear with I don't know. Right?
Yeah,
Like
I
it's
think
like
no. Honesty is, you get the question like, "Hey, so where'd you get this?" How do you answer that?
I had one person ask, "Is that a $9.99 price mark on the bottom of the shoe
Nice.
that you're
awesome.
selling for $39?" And I almost wanted to respond like, "Yeah, I got to make money too, right?" Like,
well, I've done it before. The way I handle it is like, no, I'm the second owner of this item. Right, that's usually how I answer, and then they can decide. I mean, you got to think now in society, like most people know that there are resellers that not everyone, but most people by now I think know that people resell items from thrift stores and garage sales.
do you think though there's a place, and maybe when you're a reseller, you don't want this customer, so it's okay. But I think as a buyer, like I'm thinking specific items like camera equipment. Okay. I would much rather know that I'm purchasing it from a photographer or videographer who's selling their equipment than from a reseller, right? Because then I know that whether or not they're the first, second owner, like they really know the condition of it. Like they can say like, they're not just going to say like some minor cosmetic wear. They're going to say like, the software freezes a little bit at this point. Like they know the item, they've taken care of it. So like, is it bad that a customer wants to know, like, are you the real owner? Or
No, I don't think it's bad. I think feedback goes a long way. I know it's hard to keep 100%, but feedback to me, it's important to try to keep it as high as possible because one, it communicates that, this person sells items that are legitimate and quality and so on. And number two, that this seller will resolve because they have to know that sellers, will resolve things, right? There's just, I don't think there's a way to have over, let's say 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000, 100% feedback without running into issues, right? So this seller is willing to work with issues, right? Because you've seen those feedbacks where it's like, this person never responded or I messaged them several times. Like when I buy stuff on eBay and I see that, I sometimes go, I don't want to buy from this person. So I think it goes two ways. So, all right. And this one, and I don't know where you land on this, but I go silent whenever there's a rant after I already offered a return. Like that's it. Like if somebody says, "Hey, this item, I expected it to be this way." Like for instance, I just got one where it was a new tag shirt, and the person said, "Hey, I own several of these shirts, and this shirt's too small." Now the snarky personality in me wanted to say something. And there's multiple ways you could approach that one, right? I just said, hey, I'm sorry I didn't meet your expectations. You're welcome to send it back for a full refund. That's it. Then they message again. Like, hey, so where'd you pick this up? Da, 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 da. I'm not going to answer that. I already gave you the reply. You can return it. If you don't return it, then no refund. You return it, I'll give you a refund. That's it. And I've never had an issue with eBay. For me, this is why I'm a big proponent of free returns. I know that's controversial, but I do believe in, and I think eBay has actually stated this at times, that offering free 30-day returns ultimately protects you from INAD cases. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're right.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. I don't always hear that from Mike, so it's nice when I do.
Well, maybe it's because you're so often right that would just be obnoxious for me to say it every time.
That was so kind. That was good. That was really good. You should like this video just because of that comment. All right. Hey, on that note, before we're about to jump into the hustles of the week, but I have one more question for Mike. But before we do that, hey, if you haven't had a chance yet, you're listening to us on the podcast. If you're listening to us on iTunes, if you could do us a favor and just, write a review if you get a chance, or just give us, that 5-star rating, that would be awesome. We're trying to build up that review, so we're hiring the search. If you're listening to a podcast and you haven't jumped on to YouTube yet, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification. And we're going to be dropping some videos here in about a month or so. We got to get through eBay Open and everything going on, but some good things are happening. We got the Craigslist Hunter interview too. You want to be notified as soon as that drops. And if you haven't had a chance, we're on Instagram, always dropping knowledge. Sometimes we have giveaways. Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram, Pure Hustle Podcast on Facebook, Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter. And if you want to give us a call, 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. Or you can shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. And if you ever want to say thank you in a monetary way, there is a PayPal link below. And thank you again. There's it's just so mesmerizing to me. We have some awesome followers that just go, you know what? Pure Hustle Podcast has helped us out. And whenever I make a decent profit, I love giving them a certain cut of it. And I'm like, wow, I'm just blown away by the kindness. So anyways, there's that link below. Thank you all that have continually supported us in a monetary way. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, super awesome. Thank you.
Are you ready for these? They're not bolos, but they're kind of like bolos. Hustle of the week.
Now, before we get to that,
okay.
At the beginning of the episode, we dropped the big news about the Craigslist Hunter interview coming up and our future proposed interview schedule. We didn't also mention, though, another really big announcement. Do we want to talk about that? Are we?
I don't know. There's a few things happening. Are you referring to eBay Open?
Uh-huh.
Well, we'll be at eBay Open.
We will be at eBay Open.
Okay. And we've also had the opportunity to have a greater presence at eBay Open, right? So we may be on a couple of seller panels. So if you get a chance and come support some Pure Hustle Podcast, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, super awesome. If you're there.
I mean, I'm just super humbled. I just, even Mike and I kind of hesitated sharing this because, we've been doing this for a year and we're just like, wow, I don't even know. I have no words for how I feel about, how grateful I am for this opportunity.
Yeah, super exciting. So we just wanted to put that out there and again say, how blessed we are for the opportunity and just to encourage you, if you're not going to eBay Open, I think it's sold out, right?
It is sold out.
So we're going to be providing content the entire time we're there. We're going to be putting out episodes. The plan is to put out an episode every single day while we're there.
And on Instagram stories every day. So if you don't follow us on Instagram, make sure to follow us. We're also interviewing a couple people while we're there.
Yeah, we're going to be doing some interviews, which is going to be awesome. So if you're not there, you'll feel like you're there.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be
tuning in
content. But if you are there, come check us out at the seller panel. It'll be so cool. We'd love to have your support while we're there because it's a little scary, right?
I'm telling you, it is.
It's a little bit it's scary, and so it'd be nice to have a few people there who are who can validate the fact that maybe.
Well, here's the good thing: we're on the panels we're on. There are some incredible sellers that are going to be on the same panel with us. So no matter what, the room's going to be packed. But if you like to come out and just support Pure Hustle Podcast, we're
Yeah.
good with it.
Like you could hold up a little Pure Hustle podcast sign
Or
or like a
something.
cutout of Orlando's head, like a giant one.
No, that
And
would
you
be
could be
no,
like,
we're not going there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be
But
cool.
hey, if you're at eBay Open and you see us, come say hi, come say what's up. Like, there's no better time to socialize and to network. And we'll be at some of the other events. You know, there's that reception on Tuesday night, then there's that thing at the House of Blues on Thursday night, and there's going to be all these other opportunities. And so it's just going to be awesome. And yeah, just come say hi. Let's talk. You know, it's going to be, I'm just so excited. I'm kind of a little timid that we shared that, but hey, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's out there now.
It's out there.
Thank you guys for all your support. We would not be where we're at if it was not for all of you out there who consistently listen to the podcast, follow us on social media, watch our YouTube. We're super grateful.
All right. Hustle of the week.
Okay. So hey, I wanted to just
We've talked about us enough.
No, I'm
we can't
talking
say
about
thank you
them.
enough. We'll
Incredible.
never be able to say thank you.
That is true. Okay. Well, you're starting off this hustle of the week.
Hustle of the week.
We should get, no, we're not going to do soundboard.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know. I might. It'd be kind of cool. Like a little. I just think I'd go crazy with the soundboard. Like I'd be hitting random buttons all the time. It'd be kind of cool. Like cha-ching. I'll hit and like freak everybody out. Everybody will check
As long as it doesn't get awkward, you know. Anyways, okay. Give us the
like
first
a
hustle of the
chicken
week.
barking like randomly in the background every once in a while.
Okay.
All right. Hustle.
We're
of the
moving
week.
on now.
So first one is Lisa at Instagram handle at greenmum4. So this is actually a Mug Life hustle of the week, which
Mug
is
Life?
pretty sweet, right? Check out our Mug Life video if you haven't yet. Man, that was fun.
It's legit.
So found a vintage Ray Dunn at the thrift store on a quick run going home. Picked it
Repeat
up.
that again.
A vintage Ray Dunn.
Okay. At a thrift store.
Is that like a big thing? I don't even know what a Ray Dunn is.
So Ray Dunn, to me, when I think Ray Dunn, I think Marshalls,
Okay.
right? Because it's huge as far as like, you know, new releases come out, Ray Dunn. And there's always these sellers that are like waiting for Marshalls to open their door. And actually, one of my former students got into reselling and she went like Ray Dunn crazy. Sorry if you're listening. I had to share this story. And then she ended up with overstock of Ray Dunn.
Oh, that's a bummer. But
No.
if you hold on to it long enough, it becomes vintage.
There you go. But this is unique because this is vintage Ray Dunn. All right, go ahead.
Which we determined what is from the 90s or before.
Anything that's 20 years old or older is vintage.
Nice. That's good.
So-
All right. So,
So I'm vintage.
Yeah, I'm vintage. So picks it up, looks at it, puts it down, and then it's like, you know what? I'm gonna look up comps, which is what I'd have to do. I don't even usually look at mugs, right? At all.
Yeah.
So
I would have never looked at this mug.
So looks at the mug, sees the Ray Dunn, sees it's vintage, looks up comps, buys this mug for $1.99.
$1.99. You know, I don't think we can buy mugs for $1.99 in San Diego.
Sometimes.
$4.99.
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's pretty typical.
Okay, go ahead.
$4.99. But you know, you never know. Depends on where you're going. Sells it for $300.
That's just crazy to me.
That's
That's real mug life.
Yeah. I mean, if you're buying a $5 mug and flipping it for $10 and you end up with a net profit of 30 cents, that's not mug life. If you're buying a mug for $1.99 and flipping it for $300, that's mug life. Straight up.
Mug life. That's when
Baller
you should.
status
That's
right
when
there.
you should wear a mug life shirt.
Yeah.
So, all right.
You should get a picture of you holding that mug and then put that picture on a mug. That's how mug life that is.
There you go. Anyways, okay, we'll talk about mugs another time. All right. Hey, Lisa, congrats. That is an incredible sale. Not only because it's high dollar amount, but it is vintage Ray Dunn. So that is legit.
Yeah.
All right. So mine is a fairly new follower. Like this was like their first post. I won't say post. First post on Instagram.
Wow.
So this is Andrew at Drew's Deals. Now this one's close to my heart because I'll explain a little bit. They picked up a pair of Vans shoes at the store that shall not be named.
Oof.
I want to make that trending. Let's get it trending. Like anytime you find something at the store that shall not be named, just hashtag it. Or no, because then the store that shall not be named will catch on. I don't know. Somehow.
Good. Let them be catched on. Let them be catched on. That was good.
Catch on.
Good grammar. Right
So they found it at the store. And if you don't know what we mean by the store that shall not be named, just think of that smiley face
it's
logo.
Goodwill. We don't like Goodwill.
Oh, no, you can't say it.
No, we like Goodwill.
It's a store that shall not be named. Wait, did you just say we like Goodwill?
We like we like people at Goodwill. I'd hate
No,
to say
no,
we don't
okay,
like
no.
Goodwill.
There are awesome people that work
We
there.
don't
I have
like-
friends there. Yes.
We don't like Goodwill's current pricing structure.
The store that shall not be named. Okay, let's move on. All right. So Andrew finds a pair of Vans for $9.99, which some people be like, that's a crazy price. In San Diego, we're like, that's a good price. But then notices that they're made in the USA Vans. You know what that means?
I don't, but I'm excited to hear.
It means they're vintage. It means they're money. So picks up these made in the USA Vans, lists them, sells them within 2 hours for $250. Made in USA Vans. Keep an eye for them.
Yeah, that is a Bellow.
So
Made in the USA Vans.
I don't know if I shared this in the podcast, but I was at the store that shall not be named like 3 years ago. Did I share this, my van story?
I don't know, maybe.
So I see these Vans with the box. Okay. 3 pairs of Vans with the box for $12 a piece. They all said made in the USA. One of them had like the neon colors on the box, like it looked from the 80s. So I'm going to kind of make this my hustle of the week along with Andrew's hustle of the week.
Oh, we have to have a hustle of the week. Huh?
Start thinking, Mike. So this is a hustle of the week from 3 years ago, but I wanted to share this because, so Andrew, awesome. Like seriously, the fact that you picked, because Vans that are vintage, sometimes they're very unassuming. Like you don't like notice that they're like, there's really nothing to show you that they're vintage except for the made in the USA tag that's on there. Okay. So it's usually on the back. It's on the heel. It says made in the USA. So awesome hustle week. So this was like, I didn't even know about that. So I went to the Goodwill.
You went to the what?
Oh, can we edit this?
Unbelievable.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Unbelievable.
I went to the
you
store.
gave me a hard time.
Okay, I went to the store, shall not be named. They were in the case. I took them out. I started researching. One was going for 300. One was going for 400. So, and here's the thing. I couldn't buy those fast enough. Because you know what happened is like, all the employees gathered like, hey, so is there any value to those? Like, did we price them too low? Like, those are pretty cool. Like, those are the questions that I'm just like, it's time for me to have my rude face and just go, I gotta buy it. I gotta really go. So that's what I did. I just kind of just said, no, they're probably valuable. I gotta do some more research. And I did. I had to do more research. I did some, but I didn't know if they were the exact kind. So I bought them, put them in my car, and then came back and did some more shopping. So I bought all 3 pairs for $36. I sold my first pair, I want to say for about, this was like 2-3 years ago, for $400 with shipping. And by the way, these Vans, like the glue was like melted on them, like overrunning. Like they're, because from storage. Sold the second pair for $300. I still have one more pair I need to sell. That was, for me, that's kind of like, that was one of my holy grail hustles. So this story from Andrew at Drew's Deals on Instagram was close to my story. And that's why I wanted to share it. Cause I'm like, keep an eye. And here's the thing. I think one of my pairs of shoes went to some kind of museum or something.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I had something I bought from the 99-cent store. It was a toy from a movie.
A 99-cent store?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I tried that a little bit. I was like, well, can I get some stuff at the 99-cent store?
I know some people do that.
And it was a toy from a cartoon movie, and it sold to a studio, like some kind of movie studio, which was like the name of like their thing.
Okay,
and I'm like, how weird is that? Like,
hey, they needed a prop or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I think I've sold a few things that have been props for someone's indie film or something. But
usually those are awesome because they want overnight shipping.
Yeah, they want it fast, and they don't care. Usually, they don't care if it's a prop. They don't care about like
if it's worn or just
they just want
no INAD. Yeah. Awesome. So great hustle. All right, Mike, not yours. We got one more listener.
All
hustle.
right, so we've got one from Alex, Instagram handle @flipformore, which is pretty sweet. So went to an estate sale and got in his car to leave, but decided to go back and pick up a typewriter for $20. That's big. Like a lot of times, like you leave and then you do a little bit more thinking, or maybe you do your research in the car, which is always scary because I remember the first time we went garage selling, you told me like, if you are bartering with somebody, then you go in your car and then you go back, like you've already lost the barter, right?
Oh, agreed.
But sometimes there's been a few times where like, I'm not sure if I want something, or maybe I didn't look hard enough. Well, Alex goes back, decides to pick up this typewriter, gets it for $20, sells it for $299 plus $63 shipping within 12 hours. That's
$299.
Yeah, that's pretty legit.
2 hours. Now, I will say, whenever things sell that fast, it's concerning to me. But again, this is one of those things why you use Terapeak, right? Because that'll give you a whole year's range. We're not sponsored by Terapeak, by the way, but it's been a great tool. But here's what's funny is that him and there's another IG handle, Sir Flips a lot. They were like competing who would get the first kind of hustle of the week. And he actually said he's going to play this in the warehouse. So props to you, Alex. Flip for more. All you listening in the warehouse. This was his hustle of the week.
Straight up, Alex. Straight hustler. Hustle of the week. I hope this is just blaring in the warehouse.
$299 plus $63 shipping.
Greatest hustler ever.
There you go. So
boom.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for sharing your hustle of the week. Again, always hashtag hustle of the week if you have something. Maybe we'll have like a just hustle of the week episode because we're getting a lot of them now.
Yeah.
And we just go through all of them. I don't know how that would go as far as like people going, yeah, I want to listen to 30 hustles of the week. But hey, please bring them on. And we love hearing even from the $5 to $50 to the $5 to the 1,000. So, all right, I already shared my hustle of the week. So, are you ready?
That was cheating. All right, mine's I guess a little different, especially because this last week for me was the garage sale, and coming up on one of our update episodes, I'm gonna have to talk quite a bit about my garage sale because, man, let me tell you, like, I learned a lot about what we do reselling, doing the garage sale. And I have some pretty amazing stories to tell from that, including one about a possum. So make sure to ask me about that next time.
It's going to be a long time to the update episode. I hope you remember all this.
So, but anyways, I sold quite a few things of this. I think the one, though, that like really, I'm just going to call it my hustle, was right before this garage sale. I went to my in-laws have this Connex on their property that we stored some stuff.
What's a Connex real quick?
So a Connex, so like a big like metal storage bin, like a train car type, storage. And so when my wife and I first moved to San Diego, we moved to like a really small place. And so we had to put a bunch of our stuff in storage. So we stored stuff in there and most everything in there got ruined. Like a lot of stuff, like it just got beat up, like, mice got in there. It didn't hold up, which is okay. We ended up going in there and kind of said, like, why did we keep any of this stuff anyways? Right. Like, 6 years later, if you haven't used it, you probably don't need it. And so, also I used to ride a motorcycle and,
another thing I did not know about Mike.
Really?
I did not know that.
I got in a pretty good motorcycle accident.
Would you blow kisses from your bike?
Oh yeah, that would be good. I don't think I did.
All right. Keep going.
But, so I sold my motorcycle when I first moved to San Diego. But I still had my a motorcycle jacket, motorcycle helmets. The helmets we'd already talked about, like not a good idea to sell. So I got rid of the helmets. I just threw those away. But I had a jacket and I'm thinking it had a little rip in it. I bought this jacket on clearance at a motorcycle shop because it got returned because it had like a little rip in the side. It was a nice leather jacket. But I think I paid like $50 for it when I bought it, brand new. It's been sitting in storage. Almost everything in that Connex got thrown away, but I kept that and a couple of other things. I sold that plus some gloves that went with it for like $65 at the garage sale. And I just like thought to myself, like,
so this is the garage sale that you were running to sell stuff to go to the trailer.
Yep.
Okay.
So it was like us downsizing. And so we sold so many things from our house, which is a really weird experience. So like basically sell everything.
I'm interested. I can't wait to hear.
But it was kind of cool. Like I sold this jacket that I have not worn in the last, I don't know, it's been like 6 or 7 years since I've worn this jacket. I was going to just throw it away because I was like, man, everything out here, it's just not, I'm just going to throw these totes out. I decided to keep that. And it was one of the pricier things that sold. And the guy that I sold it to, one of the things that made a cool hustle is I actually talked to him for like a good 10 minutes. It was an interesting guy. Used to ride like professional motorcycles, like races. He would do races. And he was telling me some of his stories. He was going to Brazil and one of his friends was like a motorcycle rider there. And he's like, I'm going to bring this to him as a gift. Like, I think this would be cool. So it was just neat to be able to talk to somebody and, know that it was going to a new home and wasn't just going to sit in a giant shed unit. So kind of cool. You never know what you have laying around your house that could become your hustle of the week.
Nice. So that is a hustle. I mean, you sold it for more than you paid for it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Years later, I will say that's one of the things I do enjoy about doing like when I used to do rummage sales, like stuff for my own place. And it was nice to sell stuff for more than you originally got it. So hey,
Yeah, there were a few
we'll
stop
take that.
loss things. There were a few things that I sold that was like, I bought this when I first started reselling. It was probably a bad buy.
Oh, you got rid of stuff like that.
I got
too.
I got rid of a few things. Some of the things I like made my money back. Some I didn't make quite my money back, but it was like it's out of my inventory. I recouped some of my costs. So
Oh, good.
yeah. So if you've got a bunch of inventory sitting around, that might be something to consider too.
Or you could be like Orlando and have it listed for 6 years. You still sell. Anyways, all right. Those are our hustles of the week. All right, it's time for us to talk worst case scenario.
Oh gosh, worst case scenario.
So we can, there's only so many. There's a lot of worst case scenarios. The first one
There can only be one worst case scenario.
What is that?
Well, it's the worst case. Like you can have a lot of worst case scenarios.
Okay. Well, okay, you're right. You're right. Thank you, English teacher. Okay, so you have a lot of bad scenarios. Okay, these are the ones you don't want to deal with. Have you gotten the "this is fake"? Have you got one of those?
Oh yeah.
How'd you respond to that?
Now
So this is a buyer buys something and then claims it's fake.
I don't think I've had one do that, maybe two do that after they've bought it, and at that point I just say, so sorry, I can't believe that happened. Like it must be a misunderstanding. I usually just tell them to keep it if it's a cheap thing, and I refund them. Otherwise, I say go ahead and send it back to me. Because if it like legitimately, like I sold a pair of like, I don't know, like workout leggings, and they said that they were fake, which I really don't think they were, but I think I made like $15 off of them. It wouldn't be worth paying to have them sent back and to send them again. And if they really were fake, it was like, it's not even worth selling it again. So I think you kind of make up for that. But I just I do the refund.
Okay. So I would advise that you don't do anything to put yourself in a place that you're admitting that it's fake or that there's a possibility that it's fake. Two reasons. One, unless it's like an expert, unless it's like Burberry buys a Burberry jacket from you and claims that it's fake, okay, kind of dead to rights, right? But if it's just a buyer, like, it doesn't matter, how much they've bought, like, ultimately, it's your word against their word, right? Now, if you go to an authority, and which, most of these eBay things aren't ever going to go to authority. So my recommendation is same line with anything. Hey, I'm sorry that didn't meet your expectations. You're welcome to return it for a free refund. I mean, for a full refund. And just end it there. And if they go, well, this is fake, go, hey, unfortunately, based on all my research, the item is authentic. I never sell fake stuff, but you're welcome to return it for a full refund. And just end it there. Because think about it, if you're eBay, right? They call eBay, like that person can't automatically say that you're selling fake stuff either, right? I mean, they don't even have the product in their hands. Now, if you have a consistent thing where you sold you have like 10 sales and people are accusing you of things being fake, then eBay is going to step in.
Yeah.
But if it's a one-off, that's really hard.
Yeah. And I think there's the case to be made that, you don't want to obviously admit guilt if you legitimately don't think it's fake. But I think,
but you don't sell fake. I would say none of us, unless you're purposely trying to be deceitful, sell anything fake.
Right. But it is possible that you make a mistake and
I've sold I had 2 fake Supreme shirts, and I didn't know until the person messaged me and said, hey, based on the stitching I see in the picture, those are fake. And I validated it. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry that was, an accident. This was before I shipped it out. Now, had I shipped it out and they said it was fake, I would have done the same line. I'm sorry that didn't meet your expectations. Please send it back for a full refund.
Now, I think and maybe you could do more research later on your own when you get the item back. I just think if it really is a fake and you're kind of just stuck on the idea of like, I sold this, they're lying, it's not really a fake, so I'm going to get it back and then I'm going to sell it again. And if it really is a fake, I think the second time you sell it, have more likely of really ending up in trouble. If eBay's like, hey, this is the second time this item has been reported fake, like now you look like you're selling fake stuff.
I'm not saying sell it again. I would not.
But then how do you know? Okay, so like, let's say
I'll give you an example. So I had this Mitchell and Ness football jersey. Okay, I had it listed for $250. So it was it was a nice score. I picked it up for like $10 at the store that shall not be named. And somebody messaged me and somebody said, hey, saw this jersey. I sell Mitchell and Ness jerseys all the time. Check out my eBay store. This is what I do. I'm an expert in this, blah, blah, blah. You probably should take that listing down because it's fake. I'm like, all right. I look at the jersey, I compare it to other ones on eBay, and I'm like, there's no way to really tell if this is fake. Like, maybe this guy thought it was fake, but from my end, this is legit. So unless Mitchell and Ness say it's fake, like, I'm going to list this. So I did list it, and I sold it for $200. So I could have backed right away and just said, you're right. Right? And for all I know, that could have been competition. You know what I mean? I don't know, because there were 2 or 3 other jerseys that were the same, but mine was the best one because it was new with tags. So in that instance, for me, it was like, hey, that's their interpretation. This is my interpretation. And then when I sold it, the person that bought it got positive feedback, nothing negative. Right? So this is why I'm saying, like, in these scenarios, this is a lot of the times, unless it's a real expert, to me, it's you do the refund line, and that's just my suggestion. And again, all these things that we're suggesting, we're not giving you business advice, okay? We're not legally bound by any of this. We're just saying, hey, this is what we've experienced, and this is what we've done.
Well, it's good.
So I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes, like you said, I get occasionally messages ahead of time where the person says, like, this item is fake before they buy it, which sometimes can be really helpful. Sometimes, like you said, it could be competition. Other times it's they point out that you've maybe got an error in your listing. Like one time I listed something as linen in the description and but then in the item details, it was not linen. It was whatever the other fabric was that it actually was. So somehow like I copied a listing and it was wrong.
Yeah.
And so, but the person like messaged me like the rudest message ever. Like, this is not actually linen. You need to correct your thing immediately. Blah, blah, blah. You are trying to deceive people.
Did you reply with an offer?
Did you reply with an offer?
I'm just joking.
And a kissy face.
There you go. The emoji. I will think of Mike every time I see that emoji now. So, but here's the thing. If you've taken your time and in good faith done the research and done everything possible, and it's really hard for you to ascertain whether it's fake or not, it's up to you, right? I would say with certain brands, I'd be really careful, but it's funny because, I think like people are going to fake Louis Vuitton, people are going to fake Chanel, Supreme, and stuff like that. But let's say you have like a brand that isn't like Danner boots. Like, I don't see people making fake Danner boots. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some made in USA, made in China Danner boots, which there's a difference, but no company's going to go out of their way unless it's a mass produced item.
Unless they're geniuses, right? Like, it's better to counterfeit ones than hundreds, right? Like, what if people have that idea? Like, it's better to counterfeit. Well, I agree, but like, it's probably more likely that a deceitful individual could sell and counterfeit lots of middle of the road items as opposed to like the high end, like, Louis Vuitton. Like, you're going to have a really hard time doing a fake Louis Vuitton and getting away with it, as opposed to, if it's like a random Macy's brand, you could probably sell lots of them and nobody would ever even think to check.
I see what you're saying.
So,
okay, but we're not giving that kind of,
no, I'm not
suggestion out there.
No.
I'm just messing.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying like there could be a lot in circulation because people who make forgeries, like, you're right. Like it seems weird. Like, why would somebody make a forgery of something that's, like a middle of the road brand? Like, it's not worth a lot. But like you said, there's sometimes those items where, I don't know, like, is it a wish.com version of it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I always wonder that when I see things, even at the thrift store, I'm like, is this really a real one?
No, I get it. But again, then we could have a whole conversation about bootleg.
Yeah, that's.
I've seen people on IG selling bootleg now on eBay. Do not. I'm 100% saying do not sell bootleg on eBay. Just my thoughts. All right. What about negative feedback? Have you had some negative feedback, and how do you deal with it?
I had one, and it kind of comes up with our next topic, so I'll give that specific example. But recently I had what I was certain was going to lead to negative feedback, and it didn't. I don't think it led to positive either. It was just middle of the road. No, I'm not going to tell that story. I'm going to tell about you mentioned my neutral.
Yeah.
Right. I do have one neutral on my account, and it bugs
That would
me.
bother me. It bothers me.
It bugs me a lot. And it's the weirdest thing. Like, I'm glad it didn't turn into negative, but neutral is still annoying. So this person messages me about this radio that I was selling. It was like a portable radio. You pull the little antenna up, and it looked really cool and retro, but it was like a newer one. And the person messaged me, and I should have just gone silent from the beginning, but I'm wanting to make sales, right? I'm a newer reseller.
I hear you.
And they message me and they say, "Is the volume scratchy?" Right? And I'm not 100% sure what they mean by that. So I respond to everything I think it could be. I say, like, I've turned the volume on, it works. I've tried multiple stations, volume comes in clear. I put the knob, like, turns up and down smoothly. There's no like resistance, like, it's not like the knob doesn't get so anything that could be like volume scratchy. Like, it seems to work just fine for a radio, right? I've tested it. And they say, "Okay, great, because I need one that's not scratchy. My radio is scratchy." And I'm like, all right.
Nice.
So I sell it to them. Then I get negative feedback. And this went to like a small little town in Alaska, right? It's like middle of nowhere. I get the neutral feedback, and the response was, or their message was, "Volume is scratchy." And then I finally put 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, you know what I think they're talking about is, you know how you get static on radio stations?
Yeah.
So unless you're like right in the perfect area of a station and you're tuned in perfectly, like, you get a little bit of static. Like, just think AM, right? You know, if you're out in the woods and you're turning to radio, like, there's always going to be a little bit of static unless you're perfectly in tune to that station and you're close to the signal.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my goodness, this person gave me a neutral feedback because he's in an area where he does not get good FM radio reception.
So terrible.
He's got static on his radio, and he blamed the radio for that. And he blamed me for that. Like, the volume was loud, crystal clear. There was no distortion, right? That's what I thought maybe he meant by scratchy.
Yeah.
No, he meant the static on a radio station. Like, how can I possibly know what your reception is in your area? Seriously? At least it wasn't a negative feedback, but
You should have
neutral
sent
for that?
those emojis.
No, I'm
So what happened with that neutral? Were you able to get it removed? Did you?
I haven't even tried. I honestly, I didn't think, like, it annoys me, but like, I've never really thought of it as like, is it hurting my metrics? I don't think it is.
I don't think it does. And I think neutral. And now I want you to, can you call? Can you try to get it removed?
Just
we
for
can
the story.
Yeah, so we can update.
Should
the
I record
listeners.
the story and like,
Yeah,
we could listen to it?
Yeah,
on
and
the
make
podcast?
an IG story. Yeah, or put it on the podcast. Yeah.
Like,
I want to know because I was okay. So negative feedback. If you get a negative feedback, there's 2 things you got to think about. Number 1 is if it's on you, right? Like, it's you messed up. Like, it's gonna be hard, but you can still do it. Always, don't take things personal. Always be apologetic. Always try to resolve things. I would say, again, prevent before you ever get to the place of negative feedback, right? So if somebody says, hey, so for instance, I've done it where I've sent something out and then I looked at my listing. And I'm like, oh, wait, I noticed that there was this, there was a hole here and I didn't put that on my listing. And so right away, I'm already contacting that person, right? And so you want to do everything to stop it up front, right? But the second thing is, if you get that negative feedback, right, always try to resolve everything with the buyer, right? Especially if it's not your fault, still try to resolve it because eBay, and this may be changing, but my experience with eBay with negative feedback has been, if you've done everything right, they'll remove it. If you've done everything right, but maybe there's just, it's a difference of opinion. So you said the shirt was green, but the buyer says, no, this is actually teal or something. Then it's like eBay wants to see you did everything to make it right. Did you offer them a refund? Were you apologetic? Did you offer customer service? And the first person that picks up that phone may not remove it. It may take the second or the third. I've had it by the 5th time that they finally removed it. So just think about that with negative.
Whoa, Orlando had negative feedback?
I've had multiple negative feedback. I don't have any right now, but I've had a few. And most of the time, the best case scenario for you to get negative feedback is when you get one and they never communicated with you. Like, you just out of the blue get one. Those are the best ones because you can put your best foot forward and initiate that conversation, right? And then what happens if they don't respond, you can call eBay and go, listen, I'm not sure why they left that, whatever it was. this is the scenario. This is how I shipped it. This is not true. Whatever it is, and goes, hey, I reached out to the buyer. I wanted him to make things right. If you do returns, I offered them a full refund, but they never got back to me, and I wanted to make this right. And I'm really asking, this affects my business. Can we work to get that negative feedback removed? Right. And I always word things like, can we work to make this right? Instead of just saying, please remove that negative feedback, I go, hey, can we work at removing that feedback? Because then, kind of opens that conversation up. Instead of them just saying, no, sorry. You know what I'm saying? So that's the negative feedback. But again, I would say the best advice to not get negative feedback is to do all the preventative stuff first. All right. What about, do you want to do loss or damage in shipping? Is that what you wanted to share real quick? We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, we've talked about that quite a bit. I had that one story I told where I did get a negative feedback and that got removed, no problem. Worked through UPS to get that taken care of. I had one weird one with UPS recently where they said that it was delivered. The customer said they never got it. So we opened up the case with UPS. And UPS originally said, like, no, like we have sufficient evidence that it was delivered. So we sent that to eBay and like case got closed.
In your favor?
Yeah. And then
because you had tracking.
Yep. Tracking is all good.
Okay.
And then like a couple of days later, UPS reopens up their end of the case and they say, actually, we don't have sufficient evidence. We are going to refund you for this item. Right. And
refund who?
Well, that was the whole thing. It's like, so like, I don't even remember exactly how it played out. But like they gave us the value of the item back, what it was worth, what it sold for. We showed them the eBay stuff. And then we just refunded the customer because they said they never got it. And we felt bad for them because like we basically were like, well, sorry, UPS said you did. And then UPS later came back and said, actually, we don't think we did. We lost it. So it was a weird thing.
See, in that scenario, the way I handle it is whenever, if it shows tracking, like it's out of my hands.
Yeah. You've mentioned that. And I think that's true. I think that's good. But what would you do in that if it's like, sorry, like UPS said it was delivered. And then UPS then later says, or USPS or whoever says, actually, even though it showed delivered, we don't think it was.
That's between UPS and the buyer. I think
step out of that.
I think you're completely out of that. Once it shows tracking, like your responsibility is done. You shipped the item, you sent it back. Now, if the person lies and says, hey, I never, I opened the box, there was no item there, that's when you need to step in, right? Because then you got to open a case. If it was the post office, you have to get fraud inspectors involved and get pictures of the packaging and all that. But if it's not that kind of scenario, okay, so let's talk about that real quick. If there's ever a case where a buyer says, I never got the item, or you sent them something totally different, that's when you got to take action, right? Because that's when you got to open up a case with the post office. Hopefully you have stuff insured. Most of the time, if things are more than $50, I always ship priority. Always, because you have that $100 through eBay of insurance, and then I use ship cover for anything extra. But if it's a scenario where it arrived and you shipped it and the person's claiming you never got it, that's not on you. That's on them. Because I've had so many times, let's say people are staying at a hotel or apartment building and they have the concierge up front that takes packages. Sometimes things have been stolen. Sometimes the concierge has misplaced it. But you can't do anything about it. So why put all that extra effort when the buyer is the only one that can resolve that issue?
But I agree to an extent. I just wonder if they always are able to, because I've had at least twice now where we've told the buyer, here's the tracking information, contact UPS or contact USPS. And they respond back and say, like, we called them and they told us that you have to do it on your end. So I don't know if that's just them being lazy, or like, is it because we were the one that paid for the shipping, technically bought the shipping, right?
So the way
the customer for the post office or UPS, not the receiver of the item.
I get it. I've had that before. I usually answer like, hey, that's interesting that they replied to you that way. I've been selling on eBay for years. I've had this scenario happen multiple times. I'll give them a call. So I do give the person the benefit of the doubt. I'll give them a call, but most of the time it ends up being that I can't really do anything on my end because the problem's over where you're located. Gotcha. So I call them, and then if the post office wants me to do something, I'll do it. But every time I've done that, the post office is like, have them contact their local branch, or UPS says, hey, help them go, make them go to the local store, whatever it is. So just something to think about.
Good.
Okay. All right. Lost inventory. I've had more than I care to admit about these.
Yeah, that takes a little bit of humility. I'm proud of you for your humility.
I had 3, and I talked about this 2 podcasts ago, so I don't want to go too much into it. Have you had lost inventory yet?
Nope.
Not once?
Nope.
Okay. So I think there's 3 ways to handle it. One is, remember we talked about this last time, like it's better for your metrics to take a ding on late shipment than a defect for not having the item. So you try to contact the person and resolve it, even if it cuts into your late shipment, because once it cancels, that's going to cancel out. The other one is, and this is not binding advice, but I know other resellers that do this. So I sold an item. It was very similar to another item. I shipped out. No, I didn't ship out. I was out of inventory on the one they bought, and I was in it. I had inventory of the one I thought they bought. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like one was green and gray, and the other one was black and gray. They bought the green and gray. I thought I had a whole bunch of inventory of those, and I actually had the black and gray item.
Maybe I'm out of place for asking this, but like, how does that happen?
Poor organization. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
So like you bought like 6 of them.
I kept a number in my head and I put it in storage, and I went back and I'm like, oh, I'll put this, in the eBay listing later on today. And
I can see how that could happen.
I just didn't.
That's a lesson learned, right?
Oh, definitely. Trust me, I learned. So I messaged this person. Hey, I'm so sorry. This happened. Please let me know. They never got back to me. So then I'm kind of in a quandary, right? Because one is I can send it and I get a negative feedback, or I do the cancellation, which gives me a defect. So what I did is I still sent the other item and I refunded them. So I sent them a free item, and I said, I'm so sorry. This item is very close to what you ordered. My apologies for this. Please take this as a gift, as, not atonement, but as a, just trying to make things right.
Please don't give me negative feedback is basically what you're doing.
Well, yeah, but you can't say that. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. And the person never heard back.
Yeah. That reminds me of like the little cards that occasionally come in like your Amazon boxes of, when you buy something from a third party seller, and it's like, if you're not happy with this, please email blah, blah, blah before contacting.
But that's one way to prevent. Some people do that.
I was going to say, like, does that work? Like, if people who do that on eBay, like, have you noticed that you've gotten contacts based off of those types of inserts or cards that have prevented negative feedback, or at least that you
let us know in the comments?
Yeah,
I've never done it, but I think that's, I'm not a big fan of spending money on thank you cards, but that's definitely, I think, worth the money if you're going to do it. Yeah. All right. The other way, this is going to get, I don't know if I want to say this. It's a little sketch.
Oof, don't do it then.
But it's the Reebok method.
Just ghost them?
No. What did Reebok do? So
they just refund you without saying anything.
But they marked that shipped.
Did they mark as shipped?
Yes. I got a thing that said my item was going to arrive June 24th or something, whatever.
Oh, I never got that.
So this is what I
canceled for me. Let me look.
Anyways, okay, I'll share with you what I did. And again, this is worst case scenario. What I did is I had an item. I was out of stock. But, oh no, I wasn't. Sorry. Let me correct it. No, I did not do this with an out of stock item. I did this with an item that I incorrectly labeled. So I labeled the item XL on my top of the listing, but in the description it was a large, right? So I'm like, oh no, I have to cancel this, but I can't cancel, and the buyer wasn't getting back to me. So again, don't do this if it's out of stock. This is only if like you made an error. Okay, let me correct that. Maybe we should edit this. I think people got it though. Okay. So I contacted, they never got back to me. So what I did is I planned on shipping the item still. So I shipped it still, first class mail. And then what I did is if they didn't get back to me, I was going to refund them through PayPal. Right. So my metrics are still good. I still shipped the item. there was an error. I apologize on my refund. Sorry, blah, blah, blah. Now, if they said, hey, please ship the item, I still would have shipped it to them. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Now, a lot of you will say, hey, Orlando, you're throwing away money, right? You're giving up items for free. For me, it's a long-term game. I'd rather lose, if it's like $1,000 item, that's one thing. But if I'm going to lose 20, 30, maybe even 40, maybe even $50, and it's going to prevent me from losing top-rated seller, which if you have a lot of sales, that 10% savings and that savings in shipping adds up, it's worth losing that money. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, there's been quite a few items where it's like just keep the item or give a refund when I don't necessarily think it's valid, but it's like, you know what, I'm not like there's at least one board game that I sold that I knew was complete, and then they got it and then they said this isn't complete, it's missing, and they listed like 12 things that it was missing. And I'm like pretty sure that they just took those pieces that they were missing out of their board, right? Yeah. And then claimed, or they swapped, because people do that kind of stuff too. And I'm not saying that that's all
There's scammers on eBay. Is that what you're saying?
But to me, it was like, okay, like I'm going to lose out on this. Like I'm just going to lose out. And I don't want an incomplete board game sent back to me because I'm not going to sell that. Right. So it's just like, do the thing of like, I can't believe that happened. I'm sorry. Like whatever. I'm going to refund you. Go ahead and keep it because I'm not going to be selling an incomplete item, or I'm not going to sell something that's damaged or broken. And then you just wish them luck. And then, yeah, it prevents the negative feedback. And then, like you said, if you were to get negative feedback, you can show eBay like, look, I crossed every T that I could, right? Not only did I refund them, but I'm not even trying to resell this item because I'm not trying to, it shows you don't have malicious intent, right? Mm-hmm. So it's worth it to lose that $25 or $30 and say like, this is going to keep my reputation. And yeah, it's the long game you're playing. For sure.
And so overall, right, when we talk about all these issues, number one is, you can't take it personal. It's business. Number two, you got to think long term, right? What is going to be the best solution to allow me to maintain my business, to keep that top rated seller status, to keep the metrics strong? Like that has to be your end game, right? So if you have to lose, small battles to win the bigger war, then which it's not a war, it's a business. It's definitely worth it to you.
Hey, business is war sometimes, man.
I guess so. But hey, so I hope all these things that we shared with you today were helpful. I know some of them were kind of right? But always be within eBay guidelines, Amazon guidelines, Posh, Mercari. Always stay within guidelines, because whenever you venture out, in the end, it's going to end up hurting you. So always stay within the guidelines when doing all these things.
Yeah. And if you're interested in, a couple of things. One, huge interview coming up. Hopefully everything works out okay. It's our first time doing an interview, so
it's gonna be awesome.
Anything can happen. But hopefully interview works out great. So check us out next Sunday for that. And Level Up Review Part 2 for Richest Man in Babylon is coming out the following Sunday after that. So if you haven't listened to the first one, check that out. Check out the second one if you're interested in learning several things, including what role does luck play in all of this, and how can you make sure to increase that.
Yep, and stay tuned for our eBay Open episodes. Yeah. They'll be dropping, and if you're there, come say hi. Let's network, let's talk, and it's gonna be awesome. Yeah. So with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Peace.